Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trenergy Awakens Naturally. So I want to talk to you about something. I just had an experience in a training that I was in, and I really want to bring it out here because I observed some stuff that, wow, this is for a professional class doing a lot of the somatic and the EMDR and kind of the neurological stuff that I do. As a spiritualist, that's one of the neuroscience tool places that I go to. That tool bag in neurology is where I do EMDR and presencing and grounding and doing some emotional freedom tapping or some other somatic, something to engage the body. And I was quite shocked, actually, that as much as we know about a lot of things on the planet, we don't all know that what the ultimate goal is: the integration of heaven and earth everywhere we look, the integration of lower nature and higher nature, the integration of the unconscious with the conscious. That is what these bridges of communication, if you will, through EFT, EMDR, somatic work, whatever bridges that information within us to be able to integrate that mind chatter, the mind stuff, keep what we want, dump out what we don't, and rewire. And then we're going to also simultaneously be anchoring that information, the new information, into our body while we're simultaneously jettisoning the trauma that has stayed in the fascial tissue of the body, the trauma that has lived as a living memory in the neural network of the body, literally, not just in our mind. The mind is created out of the brain space and the body space. And so when we only think of ourselves as being, somatically aware during such and such time, we're somatically aware all the time. We're somatically drawing in information all the time. We're constantly looking, we're constantly scanning. So our body is constantly taking in the information. However, we're not always consciously or mindfully aware of what that information is doing somatically to the body, the skin, the body, the person. We're not necessarily seeing that correlation. And today when I was in a breakout room, there was a woman that she was flooded by, and that's a common word, just overwhelmed with the emotions. I'm flooded. Her response when I said, I'm not really worried about the script that's written, I'd like to just kind of go with the flow. That was a bit of a trigger for her, because for her, opening up the door to really talking about too much integration in the body with that mind was going to involve some sort of a mismatch somewhere, an incongruence in her that I have no idea where it is. It seemed like it was in further discussing things with her later in that breakout room, that it seemed like maybe there were issues of control, that I can't really get outside my box of what this protocol is supposed to be like. There's a script and I'm used to just doing it this way. That was the vibe as a spiritualist, that as an empath, as somebody who kind of sees stuff and feels more than anything. You can feel through the phone just fine. I could see her whole thing and I could talk to her, and I'm getting that feeling, and it's just the overall vibe is she's kind of shrinking down and she's getting defensive, and we're not even in the process. We're just talking about our different processes. And then the question came up of how is it relative to the particular work for today, and how do we integrate that? And then it became, but I don't have the script, and I don't really know, I'm brand new at this, blah, blah, blah. This is somebody who has a practice already. This is a standing practice person who has a client base, etc., and has been doing the actual practice of EMDR for a very long time. However, integrating the somatic part of it, where my body is going to have to, finish out that balancing act between what I know up here, whether it was good, bad, ugly, or otherwise, what I know up here, what I experienced, what I brought in and received as information throughout my body, that's going to feel possibly quite uncomfortable, because even talking about it makes me want to run, makes me want to throw up, makes me want to, say, I can't do this, makes me want to do a lot of things that, in this woman's experience, she used the word flooded, which is the key word in, the somatic and EMDR society, that if we're flooded with emotions, I was just a little bit taken aback with, wow, there's such a disconnect sometimes that we don't understand, even as practitioners out here and doing body work and stuff, that it is that very integration of the pleasant and the not so pleasant, the unpleasant with the pleasant. I mean, wherever there's imbalances, good, bad, or otherwise, they are looking for the other side to balance that out. So those traumatic experiences where we lost, agency and authority, where we lost our free will, if you will, then we're looking for agency over that moment, those moments, that cumulative feel, that cumulative experience, and how that tracks out and tacks out as a pattern, an energetic pattern, as something that, and being able to link that back and weave that forward with, oh, that's how that theme is playing out. Well, that's great. That's all didactic and mental, etc. However, if we shut down the experiences in the body, or we let the body just kind of handle it with the until we kind of ignore it for a little bit longer and it just kind of goes away, or we get so subtly desensitized to that, yeah, I got a kind of a rock down there in my stomach, 555, but it's there all the time, so I don't feel anything. That this particular person I was dealing with, her whole physical body kind of shrunk in, and I was just feeling overwhelmed, very, very, very defensive, that I feel overwhelmed. And yet when we pulled back, and just kept it in we don't have to run the process. There's just a few of us in this room, and, if that's not what you want to do with your time, that's fine. Can we just chat? Is that okay? And so the three of us just chatted, and she was able to, come into a space of just the safety alone, of having a safe place for a person who's had a practice for a very long time, using very diminutive words about herself. Well, I've only been in practice since like 15 years. Lady, really? You go ahead and say, yeah, I'm a seasoned professional. She said, I'm just now coming into my seasoning. And I can't make that up for her. I can't make her feel that. I didn't even suggest it. I was just noting that she doesn't feel truly embodied as a seasoned practitioner, I'm guessing, because she shrinks and she, I'm just now, if we go ahead and numb down and dumb down ourselves when we're insecure, if we go ahead and knock ourselves a bit, then the true intention, at least when I've done that, is to put it out there that, yeah, it's probably not all that good and you're going to have a judgment. So if I let the cat out of the bag from my side, it won't be as bad if you go, yeah, or it might even, prevent you from stating what I think is the obvious. And in this particular case, that was a beautiful mirror for me to see all the ways that I used to do that, to just kind of pre-fit in. I wasn't going to just, myself, so far as to, just be able to integrate and look like I was doing everything and feeling good. I just have to pre-brief you on, and I'm not very good over here. Go ahead and assume that, and that way I'll put you on the setting of don't expect much from me here, and maybe you'll even feel sorry for me, or you'll feel some sense of, whatever. And that too is okay. Everything is okay. I felt so odd with this person that you're a body worker and you're a therapist and you do this stuff. Excuse me, she's a therapist, she's learning body work. There's a difference. That I was shocked that sometimes, we don't even realize, as this person, she felt, vulnerable in that situation, but clearly just sitting there and chatting like we were three friends, or three acquaintances, three professionals, whatever. It opened up the dialogue for all three of us to, we're not here with our, I'm this badge. I don't care where you come from or what your practice is and all of that. And, we're not here for that. This is a professional training. However, it's for professionals, and professionals come to these trainings knowing that we have our deficits where we have them. And if we're, professionals, we don't, hammer on those around us. If we're kind humans, we don't do that either. However, particularly, if we're going to reserve it to one place, let's not do it to the professional people who are here learning how to help the vulnerable spaces in society. Let's start with making sure that my peers and I are kind to that very vulnerable space when we don't know things, we don't know how to bridge information or how to weave information in if we don't know how to do heaven earth operations if we're not thinking that way. We don't know how to do as above, so below, as in, as out. We don't understand that necessarily intuitively. People that, have taken training and done work and are also intuitive and spiritualists and stuff, sometimes we have a little bit of a jump on that kind of thing because that's our line of work, is to work in that intuitive space. However, it doesn't mean that everybody can't work in that space. Everybody can. It's a matter of how far away from you are you from being able to believe that that's possible, want wanting to, believe that it's possible and actually moving forward as if it is possible, because everyone has already a fight or flight response. So we already understand instinct, which is basically, fight or flight. It's a duel to the death, or, escape until I just, something happens, it changes. I'm either going to escape all the way, or I'm going to keep running until I don't all the way, one or the other. And so when we kind of land on that as our only baseline, then we don't really ever develop the skill of intuition, which is where discernment, full integration of in and out, up and down, all the polarities, that integration point is where we can really allow that intuition to drop in with, I see, I hear, I feel. And when we can do that with ourselves, we aren't having to intuitively work out here to brief the people around us. We're going to intuitively reach out here instead of that instinctive, pardon me is what I meant to say, instead of the instinctive, let me proactively dog myself and demote myself so I understand I'm in the humble position of beneath you, whoever you are, right? Instead of doing that, we stand in the I'm here and I feel very good about this. And if something happens, if somebody says, what, you haven't done enough of this, or they make a punchy, stupid statement like that, 11:11, we're coming from our most powerful position rather than pre-briefing, with the instinct of fight or flight. I'll just go ahead and pull the punch and you won't hurt me too badly. Or we come into that discernment space and say, yeah, I'm gonna sit this one down for a second and just kind of anchor in here and feel this and allow not my fight or flight to take over, because it's not really truly that kind of an emergency. If it was truly a true emergency of life and death, and absolutely book it and get on out of here, do what you got to do. However, waiting a half a second to assess the scene real quick of, is this 11:44? Is this in fact truly an emergency? Cool. If it's not, let's take a quick breath to stop all the chemicals from acting like it is that thing and getting the amygdala, the little lizard brain back here. Let's put a breath in there, which chemically kind of puts a little stop there of, no, we're not going to let the adrenaline squirt out so much right now. We're going to kind of back off on how much we're going to release here, 12:12, and then we won't be spooled up into a physical sensation of the heart racing and the blood, or excuse me, the breath getting, shallow. We kick ourselves into 12:21 some spaces sometimes because our physical soma goes first and reacts first. That's the point, is that there's a delicate balance between starting to feel those sensations of gotta run, and the discernment to build that capacity with resilience, to be able to stand in the presence of that and say, I got this, okay? And then make a conscious move to either work further and build the capacity and the resilience, or to desensitize, use that as okay, I got close enough and I'm backing out of this experience. A lot of us need help with that because it's not necessarily intuitive that we can do that. And the people, I was just very surprised that, you just change the way that the material is presented and make it less seemingly confrontational and allow a person to just be you. If you want to just chat, it's okay. There's nothing on the line in this situation, and anywhere else in your life where it is on the line, double check and see, is it really on the line? And if it's not, then maybe you nurture yourself through what that trigger thing is. And if it is, not anything, then perhaps, I don't remember what I just said. If it is, fix it with something. And if it isn't, fix it with another something from a completely separate bag. Because in that moment of fight or flight, the crucial moment where we build resilience and desensitization and understand where that gray zone is, how to enter in and enter out safely, we're building that by testing that ground. And that woman, her resilience was, I don't want to do this. I'm not, I'm worried about the script. She was certainly very worried about me running the wrong script on her. So, okay, let's not. Why? Even if I had a paid client in my job, I still would say, oh, okay, well, I'm very fine to, let's let this be more of a you thing. So people don't want that kind of control or that kind of management right off the top. They don't want to feel like they have control of their whole therapeutic process. And yet it does need to be a transfer of that power, and to never really truly assume 100% at all for another person, to really bring them into your agency is best had by you taking it everywhere you do in a very healthy and mindful way. And so helping her meant we pull out of talking too much about the specs on this and treat us all like we're just regular human beings here learning a new skill, and we all feel awkward as fuck about this. Is that okay? And being yourself, being okay, and being accepted and seen and valued as a professional person, a whole human being, a kind soul, all levels of it, in a safe environment with two other people. It was amazing to see the transformation and to feel it within me, because we all feel our insecurities where they feel them, and I feel them too. And I'm in a group of people that might somewhere inside of me trigger some little spot that I go, I'm not as good as imposter syndrome. Oh no, I'm posing over here as a that does come up. It's a matter of how do we deal with it, and not take on the baggage, the shame, and the bullshit about why it came up. It came up because some part of me needs my attention more than out here. I gotta do some self-reflection for a second, some somatic work, perhaps some bilateral stimulation, something. I need a self-care moment. I'm going to take agency in a very mindful way. Maybe I only need 30 seconds. Maybe I need the rest of the day. However, make it a blanket. It's got to be 30 or all day. I wouldn't advise it. I haven't seen that work yet, because we're dynamic, organic, flexibly moving creatures moving through space with chaos, as our guide, ordered chaos as our guide. So, I like to have a little more to munch on than just an idea of here's your framework and that's all you get. You're going to need a little improv room here. Give me some breathing room and some moving room and some wiggle and some space to go with the flow. You don't ride a skateboard straight. You don't ride a surfboard straight. You have to and really work with the balance of that and finding that emotional flexibility. Damn, we have gymnasts probably out there that would rather be learning how to do, backflips and all kinds of things with their physical body before they'd be willing to with their emotional body, and yet it's the integration and the flexibility of both that is the strongest position to hold as a human. So anyway, I hope that's helpful for you in some way, and I hope that you're enjoying your day no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember to get within your skin, your soma, and begin, because you're divine. Absolutely fine. Your insides already know there's a deep, 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 bun deep wisdom deep within you of every single bit of ancient knowledge that came from your lineage, from the earth, from whatever. It's all the stars. We're cosmic juice. We all are cosmic dust. Then we have that ancient wisdom deep within us of how to do life and to feel that guidance coming from in here. And if we connect to anything above that that calls us to be more, to be more, to be more, I like to do that rather than ask the lateral people who tell me to reach for more, do better, that really should be better. That's artificial and it doesn't feel as good to me. So, whatever anybody else does, rock on. However, that doesn't feel as good, so I'm going to stick with my plan. Take care of yourselves, as I said, and do be well. I'll see you again next time. Mwah! Goodbye, friends.